Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full Willow Episode 1 and Episode 2 video. It's like the big Disney Plus series right now that Lucasfilm is putting out. If you're not familiar with the series, it is a sequel to the events of the movie, which is sort of George Lucas's version of a Star Wars story, but done in a pure fantasy universe. If you're a longtime Star Wars fan, there are a lot of familiar concepts inside Willow, like the lifeblood of the universe, a force that flows through all living things. Like, that sounds very familiar. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos, and careful for spoilers from the first 2 episodes if you haven't seen them yet. I'll just start at the beginning, work our way through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs and WTF moments as we go along. Like I said, the series is meant to be more of a pure fantasy take on a lot of the familiar Star Wars types of tropes, like the Force itself is their version of magic, basically. Elora Danan is the child of prophecy, like their version of an Anakin Skywalker, and there's a lot of twists with this whole prophecy, which the series is covering. Like, the series is actually based on the fulfillment of the prophecy that they talk about in the movie, like the prophecy is finally coming true. And just like in the Star Wars universe, I think one of the big twists is that it'll be a very Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader kind of twist with the fulfillment of the actual prophecy. Like, they're hyping up this giant dark villain called the Withered Crone, but I think that's kind of a misdirect. The way that Sorsha's mother was kind of a misdirect in the first movie, like a mid-bad, like the Withered Crone is a mid-bad, but the ultimate danger is in Elora Danan pulling a full Darth Vader. The prophecy that they talk about says that she's going to become empress of the entire world, like unite the entire world and become the most powerful sorceress in the world. Doesn't that sound a lot like Anakin Skywalker's prophecy, the prophecy of the Force? He'll bring balance, but will it be to one side or the other? Like, what will he be balancing? Because in the episode, you hear a couple different versions of the prophecy. One from Sorsha's side, like it sounds like a more positive spin on the prophecy. But later at the gate, they find that everyone's been killed, and written in human blood on the walls is a darker version of the prophecy. But I think that darker prophecy also refers to Elora Danan, because it also talks about this person uniting the entire world. It just depends on which side of this you fall, like on the darker side or the light side, who's she going to unite the world for? They also do a similar thing in the Game of Thrones universe. They've also done it on House of the Dragon too. The whole prophecy, the prince who was promised, the long night, who is going to be the fulfillment of that prophecy? In the Game of Thrones universe, there's a lot of characters throughout the timeline that misinterpret the prophecy. I think that's the same vibe they're going with in this series, like everybody thinks that they know what the prophecy means. Willow keeps having this vision of the future where he sees everyone has died on this giant battlefield, this big final battle. He keeps thinking that Elora Danan has to die in order to fulfill the prophecy. That's also probably a misdirect too. He's probably misinterpreting his visions. The actual opening scene is basically a recap of the events of the movie because it's been almost 35 years since the movie came out. There's a lot of people that are watching this that either haven't seen the movie or haven't seen it in a long time. I'm not sure who the Adventurers Workshop were supposed to be in. The book is also a bit of a Lord of the Rings kind of reference, like it's the beginning of Lord of the Rings or the end of the Lord of the Rings where you see Frodo and Bilbo both writing the story of their adventures and calling it the Lord of the Rings. This book is called Willow because it's about the Willow character and their adventures. The symbol on the cover is the symbol that marks Elora Danan is the child of prophecy. Sorsha narrates the recap of the events of the movie, and she claims she eventually did marry Madmartigan. They had 2 children together. They're supposed to be twins, if it wasn't clear. Kit is the name of their daughter, and she's more of an Arya Stark type. She's meant to be a combination of the two of them, like part warrior princess and part scoundrel with a heart of gold. She doesn't really care about courtly life. She doesn't care about being a princess. She doesn't want to marry the prince of the neighboring kingdom, Graydon Hastur, who's played by Tony Revolori, Flash Thompson himself from the Spider-Man movies. The person that she's fighting in the Doctor Doom-looking mask is Jade Claymore, played by Erin Kellyman, who's her love interest. She explained that her parents died when she was a baby. I don't know if they're going to reveal that she had famous parents as well, too, or if she's just meant to be a commoner. They spend most of the first episode explaining a lot of the lore behind the series, or re-explaining things, or explaining some of the new ideas, like the whole magical barrier that exists around their kingdoms. Madmartigan and Sorsha's son is named Eric for Madmartigan's friend from the movie. He seems like more of a man whore like Madmartigan was. Papa bless. The girl he calls Dove, obviously big reveal, she is secretly Elora Danan, and they've just hidden her identity from her and physically hidden her birthmark using magic. Because all these younger characters are supposed to be in their early to mid-20s, I'm guessing only about 20 years have passed since the events of the movie, even though in real life it's been almost 35 years since the movie came out. And they've just made her think this whole time that she's just a common scullery maid inside the castle so that they can keep an eye on her. If you didn't catch it either, she's also naturally a redhead. That'll probably be a bigger thing later on because she's blonde on the series right now. They said that they've just been dyeing it blonde to help hide her identity. They revealed the barrier is a magical force field that was created by Finn Rizal and Cherlindra from the first movie, The Fairy Queen. for the express purpose of protecting Elora Danan, but in reality everyone has been enjoying its protection this whole time, so it's been relatively peaceful inside their kingdoms since the events of the first movie. But this is just meant to be a small part of the world. There are other continents, other really dangerous groups that live outside the barrier, like the Bone Reavers. I think their group is meant to be a reference to Kale's bone armor from the first movie. There are a lot of actors that are reprising their roles from the events of the first film. If you watch the movie, you probably recognized a lot of people. There are a lot of actors that did come back to play their characters again. They keep referencing Madmartigan many times during the first couple of episodes, and the whole idea is that a long time ago, Sorsha sent him on a quest to find a powerful magical artifact called the Chimerian Curious, which is from the same race that Elora Danan comes from. Willow says that she's the last of the Chimerians, like the last of their bloodline. So they're meant to be like Willow's version of the Valyrians from the Game of Thrones universe, like this ancient, very powerful race that has died out, and as far as we know, there's only one member of their race that's left. So this Chimerian Cuirass is sort of like their version of a Valyrian steel breastplate. Super strong, super powerful. Ron Howard and the showrunners said that Madmartigan is still meant to be alive. He could always show up at some point during the series. It would be weird if he didn't cameo during season 1. Like Val Kilmer, still very much alive. So I am expecting him to show up at some point in this quest for this special Cuirass. They explained the Borman character used to be his squire and was on the journey with him, and he actually did find it. Within their group, he's meant to be like the Madmartigan type of character, like the scoundrel with the heart of gold. Like he's in the dungeon not because he's evil, but because he got bored and he did something to get himself in trouble. There's this whole subplot about Kit having to marry Tony Revolori's character Graydon Hastur because they're uniting the kingdoms and they're waiting for Elora Danan to fulfill the prophecy and become the leader of the entire world. So I think it's a bit of a moot point. Like they kind of told you how things are going to play out. She'll wind up uniting the world, making their marriage a moot point. They won't have to get married, and she'll be able to do whatever she wants to. Like, she can go off with this Jade character that she's actually in love with. Graydon also tells her flat out that he didn't want to get married to her either, so obviously he'll be happy when they don't have to get married eventually. They explain the Gales, the title of the episode, are a group of villains serving the Withered Crone, like a group of her minions. I think the reason why they wind up kidnapping the prince instead of going straight for Elora Danan is just because of the protection that the barrier offered. She was still hidden from their sight. They didn't know that it was actually her that they were looking for. And also, it might be a ruse, like the Withered Crone might actually be using the prince against her to make her do something evil, sort of like an Emperor Palpatine, Anakin Skywalker situation, where Palpatine psychologically manipulated Anakin into eventually falling to darkness. Like the Withered Crone is trying to do the same thing eventually with Elora Danan. When Sorsha explains this other side prophecy about Bab Morta's spirit resurfacing inside her descendants, Sorsha, her children, the whole idea, I think, is that Sorsha will wind up playing dual roles in the series, like something will corrupt her and she'll play a villain during part of the series. Because if you look at her IMDb, it lists Sorsha as the role she's playing and then like question mark somebody else like it's ... to be revealed. I think they're just foreshadowing that Bab Morta's spirit will take over her at some point, and she'll just play one of the villain characters. Not the main villain, but one of the villains. And the whole idea is the Withered Crone lives on this other continent nearby across this shattered sea where nobody theoretically has ever gone. It's just another way to show you that the world of the Willow universe is way, way bigger. Most of the events of the movie took place within a relatively localized area. The title of episode 2 is the High Aldwin, which is a reference to Willow's character. That's the role that the sorcerer who led his village played in the first movie. Like he's taken his place and started to lead his people. There's a bunch of jokes during this episode that are all references to jokes from the first movie, like using the bones, the finger test, not really knowing what's going to happen. Like Willow here is waffling in this scene, like, yes, I know exactly what is going to happen next. Maybe in a couple weeks she'll know what to do. That was part of the joke in the first movie. The sorcerer didn't know what they were supposed to do. Like, I don't know, figure it out while you're going. They also flash back to Willow after the events of the first movie, visiting Sorsha a couple years later to talk about Elora Danan the prophecy, wanting to train her, worried that the magic will fade within her. That's also a bit of a Star Wars metaphor too. Like the whole idea of Grogu, for instance, within the Star Wars universe, his abilities faded over time. He forgot some of his Jedi training until Luke Skywalker helped him remember it. So it's kind of the same deal with Elora Danan. Like, she's really bad trying to practice magic. They have a bunch of jokes about that too. Like, I can't figure this stuff out until she eventually just does it without thinking about it. She's able to do all these things unconsciously. At the end of the episode, she does grow the plant. They also have a joke about her wanting to use Willow's wand. And like, no, you can't use this. It's too powerful. It's this big conduit of magical energy. But it's kind of a Marvel Thor's hammer kind of reference. Like, the power is within Elora Danan. Like, she has all the power she needs. The wand is just a physical object you use to channel the power. There's no special magical power in the actual wand itself. The relationship between Willow and Elora Danan is kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, like the whole idea that Obi-Wan Kenobi, great Jedi, but not nearly as powerful as Anakin Skywalker is supposed to be, and still tries to train him as much as he can. If you didn't realize here too, when they're meeting the rest of their people, the person playing Willow's daughter in the series is actually Warwick Davis's real-life daughter. She wasn't in the movie because she hadn't been born yet when they made it. I think the reason why you don't see his wife is because she's supposed to have died at some point after the events of the movie. When Graydon starts talking to Elora Danan about studying arcana, magic, being good at that kind of stuff, it sounds like he either wants to apprentice or he has already started to practice magic himself. Overall, the episodes are pretty decent, but it is a very YA take on the fantasy genre. Like I said, it's sort of like George Lucas's vision of a pure fantasy Star Wars type of story. It also sort of feels like them trying to do their version of Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon, but for a much younger audience. So depending on how you like YA material like that, your mileage will vary on the series. I don't know how many seasons they have planned. I think it just depends on how season 1 performs. There'll be 8 episodes total. The next big series after this will be The Mandalorian Season 3 starting in February. Star Wars Bad Batch Season 2 is also supposed to start at the beginning of next year. And Marvel's What If Season 2 will also start episodes around that same time too. I don't know if I'm going to do Bad Batch episodes, but I will do Marvel What If episodes in the Mandalorian Season 3 episodes. And we'll see how this Willow video does, how everyone feels about the series. If there's enough interest, I'll do more episode videos for it, maybe a wrap-up finale video. Marvel's doing a big Comic-Con panel this week, so we might have a new Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania trailer video, maybe a new Guardians of the Galaxy 3 trailer video, maybe some other trailers. Be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that. Everyone click here for my new Deadpool 3 trailer to learn about the big crossover with Loki Season 2 and my new Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania Kang video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.